Hello, I'm your host Bob. In about 5 minutes I'm going to burn my NRA card. This may seem like a completely useless gesture to you, and I would probably agree that it is. The truth is, I never liked the NRA. I only joined to get a decal for my front door. I thought it sent a good message to would-be burglars. Anyway, I was tossing out some old newspapers last week when I noticed a blurb in the local news that read, "Gun-related arrest, page 6. When I opened to page 6, the headline read, "Chicago man arrested for use of firearm." According to the story, 28-year-old Michael Samuels was pulled over one morning for a routine traffic stop. Subsequent to the stop, a gun was found and Samuels was arrested and charged with, this is what it said in the newspaper, aggravated use of a weapon, unlawful possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and possession of a firearm by a street gang member. It doesn't say if the guy was speeding or had a busted taillight, and for the purposes of this discussion, it really doesn't matter. We have to ask ourselves how this convicted felon and known gang member got his hands on a gun in the first place. And that, my friends, brings us to my NRA card. After any mass shooting, Sandy Hook Elementary School, where 20 students and 6 adults died, or the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, 49 killed, 53 injured, the NRA jumps out in front of it and says guns had nothing to do with the shootings. How is it that they come out in front of every story, accuse liberals of making a political issue out of a tragedy, and don't get the irony of that? Remember how the tobacco industry used to insist that cigarettes had nothing to do with cancer until they couldn't? Here's what bugs me. Republican legislatures across the country are passing voter ID laws to stem a so-called tide of voter fraud that everybody admits does not exist, but they won't even do one single thing to stem a tide of death and violence that actually does exist. Most of America's gun violence, like here in Chicago, it's caused by handguns, not the type of rifles used in Sandy Hook or the Pulse nightclub. How can anybody be opposed to doing anything at all that might make it more difficult for someone like Michael Samuels to get his gang-banging hands on a gun? I don't get that. People who know me think of me as a gun enthusiast, although I'm not sure those are the exact words they would use. They call me a health nut because I like to eat healthy, so you can conjecture for yourself what they call me and my guns. I'm not going to show you any of those guns today, but keep in mind I'm a light sleeper and an expert marksman. The outcome of this election is not going to impact our ability to own guns. Nobody is coming for our guns. No candidate in this election has ever proposed any infringement on the Second Amendment or any plan to take away anyone's guns. Anyone who says she has is lying. You can check her website yourself. We do, however, need to make a much greater effort to keep guns out of the hands of bad and crazy people. Whether that means more stringent universal background checks, greater oversight at gun shows, or just not selling guns to anyone on a no-fly list, then that's what we need to do. The NRA should not be able to stand in the way of making America safer for our children. The inconvenience of someone having to clear their name off a no-fly list before they can get a gun is insignificant. Why is it so important that every dumbass who wants to buy a gun has to be able to do it right now? Sometimes we're inconvenienced for the sake of public safety. I just got my 2000 SUV through the emissions test and it was a pain in the ass. It cost me about $1,000 to get that rust bucket into shape, and I had to keep my fingers crossed at the testing station. We need to stop letting big business tell us that government is bad. Regulatory constipation may be good for gun manufacturers, oil and insurance companies and such, but cities and citizens suffer for it. There's another reason I'm pissed at the NRA. They gave an F rating to Missouri Secretary of State Jason Kander, who is now running for senator from that state against incumbent Roy Blunt. Kander joined the National Guard after 9/11 and volunteered to go to Afghanistan after he graduated from law school. He's a real American hero. He knows and respects his weapons and believes in the Second Amendment right to own them. He just doesn't think terrorists and assholes should have them. The NRA gave Blunt, who has never served this nation, an A rating because Blunt voted to shorten the waiting period for guns from 72 hours to 24 hours. Like that makes sense. Fuck the NRA, fuck Wayne LaPierre, and fuck Roy Blunt. On the back of my NRA card, it's got the Second Amendment. The first 4 words of the Second Amendment are a well-regulated militia. I don't even know how that pertains to me. I'm in no one's militia, well-regulated or otherwise. Anyway, this is what that looks like. There's my name. And here's the lighter we're going to use from Beaver Liquors in Avon, Colorado. And we're going to get started in a second. First, I'd like to tell you, if you'd like to send me any nasty emails, you can say whatever you want. I've got a thick skin, it's okay. Send it to rj@bobabrams.net. That's rj@bobabrams.net. If you would like to check out some of my blogs on this subject and some others that I hold dear, you can check it out at chicagonow.com/Chicago-board-tirade, chicagonow.com/Chicago-board-tirade. I know it looks like Chicago Board of Trade, but it's not. It's a tirade because I'm always on one. Anyway, here we go. Here's that card. Here's the lighter. And whoa, I'm gonna just dump that into an ashtray over there. Well, it's actually not an ashtray. We don't have ashtrays in the house because nobody smokes here, and no one's allowed to smoke in my house. That's it for today. Don't forget to get out there and vote.